What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, I decided to use some Jellicent in the Go Battle League. It's a Pokemon that has a lot of play into Deoxys and Gligar, and basically any other water type that you're going to see in the game. So in the Remix meta, it actually is pretty strong. It is a little bit clunky using a 3-turn move, and it doesn't have a lot of fast move pressure, but it is a great core breaker. It's a fun pick. Let's take a look and see how it does. Alright, let's get into game number 1 here. We're going to see that we have our Jellicent in the lead against a Shadow Charizard. This is a good lead, but they have some play here if they get a lot of energy on their Charizard in the back, so we want to keep switch advantage. We want to not give them too much energy on their Zard if possible. They safe swap their Registeel. We have our Shadow Gligar to answer this, and it is a pretty hard response. If they run Flash Cannon, that's not great, but this one looks like it is just running Zap Cannon and Focus Blast, so definitely not the worst case scenario. We can also start throwing these digs here. Hopefully we're going to be able to get some energy as well out of this matchup to throw a move into that Shadow Charizard if it comes back in. At this point, though, they have set themselves up for a pretty nice farm down with Shadow Charizard, so I am a little bit worried about how much energy they're going to be able to leverage on that in the back. The next dig comes through here, they do let it go, we can get the knockout against that Registeel, and then there it is, the Shadow Charizard, it does come back in. They're going to try to get a lot of energy here. They're wing attacking us down. I would love if I could get to another Aerial Ace. They do no-shield that Aerial Ace because obviously they are debuffed, or I am debuffed, so that's not going to do too much damage. Then they swap out here to their Whimsicott. They have a lot of energy on their Charizard, and Whimsicott, grass types in general, massive core breaker for this team. So this is absolutely terrible to see here. What I need to do is I need to take a shield from this matchup, and then maybe Poliwrath has some play into the back. Jellicent, it can survive one Seed Bomb as we see here, so we're not in a completely losing matchup, and my Poliwrath probably can survive one as well. As long as we can call the Moonblast properly here, we won't have to shield just yet. If this is a Moonblast, we're going to get one shot. If it's a Seed Bomb, we can survive it. I think since I haven't debuffed them yet, it's likely a Seed Bomb. We will no-shield that. We have some shields left over as well, so that Shadow Charizard isn't going to be able to completely sweep us right now. We can maybe get to another Icy Wind here. If they ever try to catch, at least we can get that move off against them. Looks like they do instantly swap here to Charizard, but at this point, I know that my win condition is going to be to farm this down with my Jellicent. Hex them all the way down here, double shield whatever I can. Hopefully I don't actually get to another move, because that Whimsicott does have some energy. If I can hex them down before they get to another Dragon Claw, we should win this game by throwing the Shadow Ball on CMP, and yeah, there we go, we can take the match with the Shadow Ball. It was a good lead, right? But that Whimsicott in the backline, we have an ABA water lineup, which means not only are grass types kind of tricky, but electric types too, so it's a good thing we were able to overcome that with our Jellicent and our Poliwrath. In this next match here, we're going to see that there's a Shadow Alolan Ninetails in the lead. This one's running Charm. Some of them run Powder Snow. And since it's running Charm, this is a much worse moveset for us to deal with. We resist Ice-type moves. We don't resist these Fairy-type fast moves, which means that our health is going away very quickly. Also, every time we throw a charge move, since we're both using 3-turn moves, they get a full Charm through, which means a lot of damage just for free every time I throw a charge move. We are going to no-shield this, we can survive the Psyshock, and since we already got a shield with the Surf, I can actually take a shield, and then either a second shield here or a ton of the health on this Ninetails. This is a pretty decent way to play out this lead matchup here. We were able to get a lot of advantage out of that, and now we have our Shadow Gligar that can farm down this Alolan Ninetails. In comes a Giratina. This thing is a bit of a scary pick to see. Our Poliwrath doesn't really want to see this, and if this is what they bring in here, I think my Gligar might have play in the back, but maybe it's not gonna. We'll just have to see what their throw is gonna be, and they do shield up that first dig, which really reinforces the fact that I'm probably gonna be strong in the back with whatever my Gligar is. With that said, this is probably an ominous win bait here. It is, we properly call it. Out of the corner of my eye, I see in the corner, they got a boost from that move. That is absolutely terrible to see. This dig will now not knock out, and these Shadow Claws are going to rip through my health very quickly. I can come with my Poliwrath, though. We have 2 shields still. I can get to the Icy Wind pretty quickly here. Depending on what the third is, we still have some play. If it's something that was weak to Gligar, there's a chance that my Poliwrath also has play into it. If it's like a Steel type, then we're in a good spot. If it's like a Poliwrath, then at least that's neutral, right? We have a shield advantage, we have a bit of energy here too, and it is going to be that Poliwrath. We were able to neutralize the boost from that Giratina. Hopefully get to a move here. We do get to the Scald first, and we see that we win CMP. They actually went for the Icy Wind, which means I know I can no-shield this move. I could survive it pretty easily, but I could also maybe shield. It depends on where I want to use my shield. I know that if I let this go and I get countered down, then I might lose this game. My Gligar is very low, right? I might not be able to lead to another move on that if I let it go. So I do just shield it up to be safe, get to this Icy Wind here. It probably won't knock them out just yet, but it will put them in range where I can fast move them down. They throw a move on CMP, so they're completely energy dry here. They're well within wing attack down range though. So at this point, just come in with my Gligar, wing attack them down, and take the match against that interesting Alolan Ninetales team. Alright, next matchup here, we're going to see a Jellicent lead into a Wobbuffet. This is pretty good. If you've ever seen like a Deoxys defense, Wobbuffet is basically that, but even bulkier. So it's a good lead for Jellicent here. They safe swap a Berserker, a very interesting pick. I actually lost to one of these earlier today. Berserker is a bit of a core breaker if it is in the lead. Luckily, this one is in the back. I can get my Poliwrath onto it, and luckily I do survive that Trailblaze, get a full counter down, and I can throw energy against that Wobbuffet if it comes back in. I think Wobbuffet would probably be one of the hardest answers to Poliwrath here. So being able to not have it locked in for the most part, I was able to use my Poliwrath somewhere else. This is a pretty good spot to be in, but there's always a chance there's something tricky in the back for us to deal with. If we need to, though, Gligar can deal with this this Wobbuffet, and our Jellicent can deal with whatever the third is. It just really depends what is their third going to be. Maybe another Steel type, maybe something else weak to fighting. It's going to be, looks like a Walrein, actually. I haven't seen too many Walreins in this meta, but I'm a big fan of seeing the Ice type Pokemon here. I think Ice is a very underrepresented type here in Remix. It is a very strong typing into my Gligar in the back as well, which means I kind of just have to stay in this, right? Throw the Shadow Balls, hopefully shield up the Earthquakes, and as long as I properly shield and I land a Shadow Ball here, we should be in a good spot. Earthquake does come through, so good shield by me. I had to kind of throw on bad timing there, or else I'd go over 100 energy, so I do just end up throwing on slightly suboptimal timing here. It lands, and at this point I know I'm in a very good spot. I can go double surf at this point, and that Wobbuffet has absolutely nowhere to go against me. Wobbuffet's a really cool pick, though. I was kind of almost thinking about using it myself, but I decided not to. I wanted to go with the Jellicent today, and here we have the next match. Jellicent into, oh my goodness, so this is a terrible lead. We are ABA Water, right? That means that we are ABA weak here to electric type damage. The one saving grace in this matchup is this isn't as good as some of the more meta electric types that we see in Open Great League. You know, the Lanturns and the Chargebugs are both very strong picks. Dedenne, it doesn't have as much fast move pressure. Discharge, it's a good move, but it's not a great move, right? So they need to land 2 to knock out our Jellicent. It's a very bulky Pokemon, so landing that Shadow Ball here is actually going to neutralize this Dedenne quite a bit. They are outside of range, though, where I think I could counter them down before they could get to another discharge, so I'm going to try to wing attack them down. Fortunately, they swap out. Well, maybe not fortunately. They do swap out, so their Dedenne is still alive. We can get to a dig, though, against this Cofagrigus, and then if I land this, I think I can actually shield and farm them all the way down. Cofagrigus is a decently bulky Pokemon, but it's not going to be bulky enough here to stand this Shadow Gligar onslaught. We do shield up a move. Is it a Dark Pulse? Is it a Shadow Ball? It is a Shadow Ball, so that means that they're not going to get their move 1 energy cheaper than if they would have thrown a Dark Pulse, so we can farm them all the way down. What is going to come in? Is it going to be that third, or are we going to see that Dedenne come back in? It is going to be a Ferrothorn. Alright, so this isn't amazing, but it's not terrible either. Ferrothorn does have Grass-type damage that it can throw into our Poliwrath, so this is probably one of the Steel types that has the most amount of play into our Poliwrath they could have had. But we still have a lot of energy on Gligar. Try to trip this down, strip shields as much as possible, and if we can, maybe we'll be able to take out that Dedenne at some point. They do throw a move here, and I know that I have a lot of energy left over on my Gligar. I kind of need to keep my Gligar around as well, because that Dedenne is still alive in the back. They do come in with it now. I can overfarm a little bit, get up to 100 energy here. I knew they were dry when they swapped out, so they weren't anywhere near getting to a move. We can get to the ace, knock them out, try our best to throw these aerial aces against this this Ferrothorn here, knock them out with either the fast and charge move pressure, or counter them down with my Poliwrath if they throw a move here. Looks like they do. Poliwrath takes about 70% of its health from a Power Whip. We are well outside of range of that, right? We haven't even seen battle just yet, so we can bring this in, counter this all the way down. They don't even bother throwing a move. They know it wouldn't one-shot us, and we can take the match here against the electric type lead. Alright, next matchup, we're going to see a Jellicent lead into a Shadow Steelix. So you might think that the Water type into the Ground type, this would be a very good matchup for the Water type, but this isn't quite the case. Steelix does have access to Crunch. It also has access to a nice bait move known as Psychic Fangs. That means if they bait me or if they land a Crunch, then I'm not really in a great spot here. The best place to be with my Jellicent is to play out the lower shielding scenarios here. Try to land 2 Surfs. If I can strip a shield and do a lot of damage, then maybe my Gligar or maybe my Poliwrath will have some sort of play in the back. But, you know, saying they do have a weakness here to fighting in the lead, there is also a chance it's just double counter to Poliwrath in the back, so try to bait that out early here. We see that it's going to be a Gligar, which is not exactly the biggest answer here to our Poliwrath. We can get to this Icy Wind. If they let this go, I can counter down. If they shield it, I can get to another one pretty soon. They do let it go, but since they do, and since they are so weak to Ice, now I can just shield once, farm them all the way down, and have energy to go against whatever their third Pokemon might be. We have a lot of energy. That Steelix is still around, and that is a Superior, so they are actually kind of double weak to Ice in the back. So either way, my Poliwrath would have play on the safe swap, so it's a nice thing that I was able to swap it in, get some use out of it, even though the Steelix in the lead was where it would rather be. They get to a move here. I know at this point, though, my Gligar has a lot of health. It is going to be able to come in here. This is a debuff Superior. We don't have to worry too much about what they have. We'll make a nice catch on this Psychic Fangs, but the thing is, if they undercharge this, they can probably get a lot of energy and still Psychic Fangs against my Gligar. Looks like they do make a nice undercharge here, but we can try to get to a surf. Just barely don't get it, but this Steelix, after those Hexes, are going to be in Wing Attack downrange. If I can knock this out with fast moves here, I'll have a lot of energy to throw into that Superior in the back. Psychic Fangs is a little bit annoying to take there. It means that we won't be able to survive a move, but they won't get to him. They realize that, and they top left, we take the game, and we can get up into the next matchup here against a Galvantula lead. This is another terrible matchup, right? We saw the electric type lead earlier. Luckily, they threw on alignment The 4-turn move into a 3-turn move is a very awkward timing here for Galvantula, but they do bait us. That is a very smart bait. I could have called that. It would have done very little damage, but we end up shielding it. We can get to the surf. We can get to the next surf as well. So even though, once again, this is an electric-type Pokemon that is a bit of a core breaker here, we have more play than you might expect with our Jellicent. You get to this move. If they don't actually have Discharge here, we can also survive this attack. I've seen some run Cross Poison, so maybe they bait us, maybe they don't even have Discharge. They throw the lunge, we survive, and we get the Surf off. Jellicent might actually be winning the one-shield matchup here, which is kind of crazy for the water type. Looks like we do take it out, they let it go, but they get a farm down on Ferrothorn. We have our fighter for this, but as we saw in the last matchup, this is a Pokemon that actually has play into us. It might be a Steel type, right? But it's also a Grass type, which means it does have the ability to almost one-shot us here, do about 70% of our health, but we see their third Pokemon, they swap into the Mandibuzz. This isn't the worst case scenario, we can debuff this. If this move lands, that's probably a very nice move to land onto this. It's going to do more damage than anything else my Gligar could throw. I try to catch an Aerial Ace, but they make a nice read. They don't throw it immediately, and they are going to likely start spamming out Dark Pulses into us. Luckily, though, we did debuff their attack with that Icy Wind, and we still have a lot of our Poliwrath around. So as long as we can take out this Mandibuzz, make it so that Pharaoh doesn't get a ton of energy, we should be in a decent spot to win this game. The first Aerial Ace comes through, they don't shield it. We're at the next one now, and since these Dark Pulses are debuffed, as I said, look how little damage they're actually going to be doing to us here. They have to land 3 moves. Normally it's 2 moves plus Fast Move Pressure, that's enough to knock out our Gligar, but since we got that debuff, it's going to take 3 moves from them, and they have to shield up here. And I'm kind of fine with that. At this point, if I can counter this down and get to moves against that Ferrothorn, I'm in a very solid position. They do knock us out. We can try to counter this down. We don't quite get it. They do swap out, but we have enough energy. Throw this move before they can get to a Power Whip. This is going to make it so we can survive this much easier here. We're getting to the point where Power Whip probably would have knocked us out, so being able to get that debuff off is going to make it so we can probably just barely hang on here. That Mandibuzz did throw a ton of energy before it swapped out, so they're not going to get to another move. We hang on with like 1 HP, punch down the bird, and we can take the game against that interesting Galvantula lead. Alright, next matchup here, Jellicent lead into another Shadow Alolan Ninetales. Is it Powder Snow? Is it Charm? That's always the question. Yet again, this one is a Charm user. It's probably the worst case scenario here. I would have preferred if it was running the Ice Fast attack, but we can play it out how we did last time. Actually, I think last time we baited the Surf. This time we'll throw the Shadow Ball first, and then looks like they do shield again. So we can get to a Surf here still, play it out very similarly to last time, or we can try to shield this and then go for a Shadow Ball. If you play out matchups always the same way, sometimes people can catch on. This time I'm mixing up a little bit, going for the double Shadow Ball. We can either take a shield here or almost knock them out. Looks like they do shield it up, which is a little bit annoying because my backline, my Poliwrath, right, it's not going to want to see that later on. We safe swap our Shadow Gligar. They come in with a Shadow Quagsire, not the hardest answer to a Gligar out there, and I actually see an interesting play we can make here. I have double Aerial Ace, they have their next Aqua Tail. I actually want them to knock out my Gligar here so I can farm them down with Poliwrath and have energy to go against that A9 in the back. That way I'll have a shield, I'll have energy, hopefully I'll have a lot of play into whatever their third Pokemon is going to be. Aqua Tail does knock us out, we'll get a hefty farm down here. Looks like they're going to throw an Aqua Tail. They're not building up to the Stone Edge, they probably could have got the Stone Edge if they wanted, but they're just going to throw the Aqua Tail. We'll have a lot of energy, as I said. It really is going to come down to what that third Pokemon is. Maybe they'll drain energy on A9 now, maybe they'll come in with their third. Just have to see what it is going to be in the back. Looks like eventually they're going to come in with a Ferrothorn. A lot of Ferrothorns tonight, so this is a decent matchup here, but we need to always have a little bit of energy to go, just in case that A9 ever comes back in, so we can throw a Scald into it. Looks like they swap out instantly. We do have enough energy here to get to this Scald before they can knock us out with fast moves, and now we still have our Poliwrath. We have a shield left over as well, and we can get all the counters through. We can land an Icy Wind. As long as the Bullet Seeds don't knock us out before we get to it, just barely we get this move, and we can knock out this Grass and Steel-type Pokemon with our Poliwrath. Looks like that was a very close matchup. Once again, Shadow Alolan Ninetales in the lead. A bit of a tricky Pokemon to deal with, but it's something that Jellicent can kind of brute force its way through. Alright, the Jellicent Mirror. This is a very tricky matchup, especially for my particular Jellicent, because I don't have a very high attack one. I'm actually running a very high rank one, so I probably lose CMP a lot of the time. I baited here, but they made a catch, so that means that instead of catching a Shadow Ball, they actually ended up catching a Surf. Since they're running Quick Attack, I feel very safe to stay in this matchup for a minute, build up all of my energy again, actually overfarm even more than I was at. So this way I have energy to go against that Jellicent when it comes back in, and now I can get a full counter down against that against this Diggersby, so we'll have energy against that Jellicent later on. We'll have a fully loaded Poliwrath, a fully loaded Jellicent as well. As long as the third Pokemon isn't like a massive core breaker for us, we should be in a pretty good spot. They do have a Shadow Ball, right? They could try to instantly throw it, but if they do, then they're completely down energy. I have so much energy on my own Jellicent I'd be able to just start spamming out moves against them there, and they know that, so they're going to build up energy here. They want to try to get something out of this matchup. We'll go for the Scald now. We might not have a lot of damage here, but it's chipping them down quite a bit. At this point, they're in Surf plus Hex range, so that's pretty good for me, especially with how much energy I have. I'm not going to have to waste too much. Looks like that might have been an undercharge. That was a very nice play by them. But we'll just go for a fast move. I know I'd probably lose CMP, so just going for the fast moves, building up a little bit more energy, see what comes in here. Looks like they're actually going to stay in, so I'll throw the Surf. They might not quite yet get knocked out by this, but it will put them into range where I can wing attack them down pretty easily before they'll get to another move. Their third Pokemon's a Carbink. You might expect having both a Water type and a Ground type here, we'd be in a pretty good spot, right? But I wouldn't say so, at least not as much as you'd think. This Carbink is going to be very bulky, they can survive these Surfs, and I have no fast move pressure against this at all. Very smart no-shield by them. If they would have shielded that, then I could get to 2 digs with my Gligar very easily and knock them out there. Unfortunately, that no-shield is going to make it so now I have to get to yet another Surf, give this Carbink even more energy, and now they're pretty much loaded. I have no fast move pressure, I'm not going to be able to fast move this down, and they have a potential catch in the back with that Jellicent that they swapped out with. They throw the Moonblast. It is going to land, well, it's going to get shielded rather, but it is going to land the debuff, which means that, well, honestly, that doesn't matter. The debuff isn't going to really change much. A dig still knocks us out. We still wing attack down the Jellicent. It's going to come down to a catch or not. Looks like they try to make a catch. We get the wing attack down. We have the dig loaded. We'll throw it against this Carbink and just barely take the game against a very tricky backline. My team in general should have played this Carbink, but it makes it a lot closer than you'd want if your Poliwrath is gone. All right, see what we got in our next matchup here. We're going to see our Jellicent lead into a Shadow Dragonite. This is tricky. We have a lot of charge move pressure into this, but very little fast move pressure. We'll try to get to these moves first. If I want, I can no-shield a Dragon Claw in the Zero Shield matchup, get to 2 Surfs as well, to basically take a shield in a lot of this Dragonite's health. That's normally how I like to play out this matchup. We'll go for the first Surf. They do shield it. We'll try to go for this next Surf. We do survive this move. We can try to throw this Surf as quickly as possible here. If we can survive and get this move off, that's going to be massive. Looks like they actually made a nice catch onto a Registeel here, so we can swap out to either a Gligar and try to get a lot of fast move or charge move pressure onto it, or we can fast move this down with our Poliwrath. Looks like I choose the Poliwrath route. If we don't get debuffed, we get a full counter down here. If we do get debuffed, however, that's going to be a little bit awkward. We'll probably have to throw a move here, waste a lot of energy that we'd rather have for the backline. Looks like a debuff does happen, and at this point, because of that debuff, I'll have to throw a move here. I'll have to throw a full-on Scald, which is a lot of energy to waste against a Registeel. Rather than having 100 energy, we only have 50 now to go into the backline. That's a Tapu Fini. This is terrible for us to see. We have almost no play into this now that our Jellicent is gone. We have resisted damage here. We are debuffed, so this thing can kind of tank its way through us. The one good thing about this is they are also doing very little damage to us. They can land a Nature's Madness and that would knock us out, or we can shield it up and try to use our Poliwrath here to whittle down their backline. They do get the debuff. It's a guaranteed debuff to our defense every time a Nature's Madness is thrown, so that is a little bit tricky. They probably have us into Surf range now thanks to that debuff, and they come in with the Shadow Dragonite. We have an Icy Wind to go against this. We'll throw it. We'll try our best to use some sort of advantage on our Gligar now. Make them throw a move, actually, because I might have been able to get to another Icy Wind. They do throw energy here, so if I can farm this down, or if I can get to 2 moves on my Gligar, then maybe there's a chance I win this game. But I do see one tricky thing happening here. That Tapu Fini, it did swap out with a Surf. We'll have to make a call. It's a 50-50 call. Are we going to make a swap and catch the move immediately, or are we going to try to CMP them, having them expect that we'll try to make a catch? Which play is correct? I just try to go for CMP, they throw the move, and we're going to lose this one on a coin flip. I could have swapped out and caught that move, but on the top of the leaderboard, it's always just a 50-50 call whether or not to make that kind of play. I made the call wrong, and we lost that match. Alright, Jellicent into a Shadow Charizard. Another pretty good lead, but as we saw earlier, Shadow Zard can make this really uncomfortable. And this time they're actually staying in, so I'm thinking there might be a little bit ABA weak to this. I don't know what that could mean in the back, but I like to have energy on my Jellicent just in case I need it for something else. We'll show them a Dragon Claw. I thought if they're staying in this matchup, there's a chance they might go for a Blast Burn, but they do just bait us here, so it's a bit of a wasted shield by me. We throw the first Surf, we get a shield in return, and then we have another Surf loaded here. It looks like this Charizard is trying its best to whittle down our Jellicent. It's a bit annoying, right? I know that my Jellicent probably has play in the back. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know for sure I want to keep it around. This Blast Burn, if it is, would not knock us out quite yet. It's just another Dragon Claw, though, so we do survive it. Another move coming on through here. Probably just another Dragon Claw. We have energy here, though. But want to make sure a catch doesn't happen. Make sure we watch the corner. Looks like a Registeel is going to be swapped in to try to catch our Surf. We still have energy loaded on our Jellicent, so I have to keep that in mind. And we also have to know that that Charizard is still alive. We need to throw a move at them to knock them out, and we also need to throw 2 moves at this Registeel to knock them out. Another debuff comes through from this Registeel. It's a 66% chance, so it's more likely than not for them to debuff our attack, but it is always annoying when it happens. It makes it so that my Gligar, if it gets out of this matchup, is not going to have quite as much play into whatever comes in. We do throw this next dig. What is going to come into our Gligar to try to farm us down? Is it going to be that Charizard? Is it going to be whatever their third Pokemon is? We'll just have to wait and see. Looks like it's going to be, oh, that is a Psychic type. That's a Deoxys Defense. I can see why they wanted to stay in that lead matchup now. They had something that's even weaker to my Jellicent in the back than they did in the lead. This is a little bit awkward now, right? We can try to whittle them down with our Gligar, but we are attack dropped thanks to that Zap Cannon. That means that I haven't done quite as much damage as I would have liked to do, but now, also this is Rock Slide, that's kind of crazy, but now that we've chipped them down, our Poliwrath might actually have play here. We have a Surf loaded, right? So we want to drain energy here. We don't want to waste all of our energy against this Deoxys. I don't have a Shadow Ball quite yet, so since they had so much energy, if I would have thrown a move there, with my Jellicent, I would have been energy dry. They could have probably danced around me with the Deoxys and the Charizard, so that's why I came in here with my Poliwrath, try to get some use out of it. They catch the move here, which honestly, I'm completely fine with that. Getting that Charizard out of the way is great for me, because now I have a Surf loaded, and after these counters, I can get it into Surf range. Hopefully knock them out here with this move. They go for a counter. They had a Psycho Boost loaded. It would have been kind of iffy if that would have knocked me out anyway, but this Surf is going to land and take out this Deoxys defense in the back. Normally you see Deoxys in the lead, so seeing it in the back there was a little bit tricky for a Poliwrath, but we were able to overcome it. Next matchup here, we're going to see our Jellicent into a Goodra lead. This is kind of terrible, right? We don't want to take Thunder Punches here. We don't want to take Thunder Punches also on our Poliwrath, and then Aqua Tail is great coverage for our Gligar, so this is a very big core breaker for us. We can throw the Shadow Ball, though, stay in this matchup, force them to throw a lot of energy, because we do survive 1 Thunder Punch in the Zero Shield. We'll have to throw a Thunder Punch and an Aqua Tail if they want to knock us out before we're able to get to 2 Shadow Balls. They do throw the first Thunder Punch. They have to throw an Aqua Tail here very soon. Looks like they do, and now at least we've done a little bit of damage to them, and we've taken a shield. Our Poliwrath is going to be able to neutralize this thing quite a bit if they want to stay in here. Maybe they'll swap out, though, because we have stayed in that lead matchup. They might want to save it. Looks like that's what they do. But since they do swap out, we can lock them in with a debuff with this Icy Wind. This is fantastic news. Our Gligar is going to come in. It'll be able to absorb a lot of energy here. I've seen some Rock Slide Deoxys defense, but most of them haven't been running it, so as long as they shield at the first move here, if this is a Psycho Boost, our Gligar is going to be able to leverage a lot of advantage out of this matchup. Looks like the first move is thrown, it is a Psycho Boost, it is properly shielded, so this thing is very debuffed right now, 3 stages. This next move is going to do almost nothing to us, and we can build up even more energy here. I could throw the Dig to get the guaranteed knockout. It would have knocked them out before they can get to another Psycho Boost, but I do go for the Aerial Ace here. This way I can get a little bit more energy out of this matchup, hopefully have energy to go against whatever comes in. If the Goodra comes in, they're probably within Dig range thanks to how much fast move pressure I've got onto them already. Looks like it is the Goodra. We'll throw the Dig immediately, make them make this decision, because they have a little bit of energy left over. I don't want to have to shield before they do. Looks like they let that go, and in the back is a Shadow Alolan Ninetails. This is terrible news for our Poliwrath, but because we can get to this Dig, I think this can guarantee us the win. We can get to a Scald if they end up shielding this. Looks like they no-shield it, though, because they know that I could get to the Scald. We can counter them all the way down now, take the match against the Charmer in the back, and take the win in that final game. Jellicent was honestly a pretty interesting pick to try out today. I'm not normally a big fan of 3-turn move users, especially on Pokemon that aren't necessarily super bulky, but Jellicent is able to be a very nice core breaker in this meta. It's able to also deal with a lot of the Deoxyses and the Gligars, a lot of the water types as well that we see a lot in the meta, and as long as you're not against a normal type or a dark type, it does have quite a bit of play. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I stream Pokemon Go PvP nearly every day at twitch.tv/itsaxon, so if you want to see this kind of content live, make sure to check me out there. I'm also going to upload a lot more videos to this channel, so if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.